When I decided I was done being a cruise ship musician, I had one problem. I had no idea how I was going to make money when I got off the ship. This is the story of how, during my last contract, I built an online drum coaching program that went on to do $250,000 in sales. I'm going to tell you what I built, how I built it, and what I would tell any musician who wants to do the same thing today. To start, let me show you the first decision I made that changed everything. The first thing I did was find someone who could help me actually build this. I knew I wanted to do something online. I just had no idea how to make it a business. And the teaching side of things, I wasn't worried about at all. I taught in primary schools and high schools, universities, all throughout my music career. That part I knew I could do. It was just kind of everything else, like setting things up, getting started with the offer, and the business side of things, I had no clue where to start, mainly because I'm a musician. So I hired a mentor, and the thing that might surprise you is that mentor had absolutely nothing to do with music. They had zero music industry knowledge. He just knew how to build things online. And honestly, looking back, that was probably the right call, because I didn't need someone to tell me how to teach drums. I needed someone to tell me how to run a business. Now, if you're thinking about doing something similar, definitely find someone who's already done what you want to do and get them to help you. It doesn't have to be a musician. It just has to be someone who knows how to build something online, because there is a learning curve, and having someone cut through that for you is worth every penny. Also, in my cruise ship video, I got roasted for using my hands too much, so I'm trying to work on it. The next thing I had to figure out was who I actually wanted to teach and what I wanted to help them with. I knew straight away I didn't want to teach beginners anymore. I had definitely done my time teaching kids in schools. I wanted to work with more intermediate and advanced drummers, as that's really where my skills were. That's where I was confident that I could actually deliver results. I also have a jazz and improvisation background, so that naturally shaped what I wanted to teach, right? Something a bit more interesting to me. So I started doing a bit of research. I was reading Facebook groups, I was asking questions, I was looking at comments, paying attention to how intermediate drummers really talked about their playing. And this pattern kept coming up. People kept using words like fluency and fluidity and flow, and this idea of hearing something in their head and not being able to get it out on the drums. That's something that I knew I could help with. I had built systems for myself based on that exact thing. So when it came to the name Drum Flow Coaching, it wasn't some clever branding marketing exercise. It came directly from the language that my audience was already using. They told me what they wanted, and I just built an offer based around what they were saying. So if you're an educator, don't just build something and then try to find people who want it. Do it the other way around. Find out what your ideal students are already struggling with in their own words and build your offer around that. It saves you months of wasted time building something that nobody asked for. If you want help figuring that out, I've got resources on exactly this thing inside Musician Freedom. It's my free community. You can check it out. The link is down below. The biggest mindset change I had to make was definitely around pricing. As a musician, I'd only ever charged by the hour. That's just what you do, right? $60 here, $80 there, time for money. So when my mentor told me to charge $1,000 for a coaching program, I thought he'd lost his mind. And I was thinking, nobody's ever going to pay that. And even if they did, why would they pay me that? There are teachers out there, really great teachers, charging a fraction of that price, but I trusted my mentor and I built the offer at that price. And what I started to learn pretty quickly is that people don't actually buy hours for lessons. They buy results. Nobody wakes up thinking like, oh, I'd love to get 12 hours of Zoom lessons this year. They wake up thinking, I want to finally have flow on the drums, or I want to be able to play the ideas that I hear in my head on the kit. That's what they're paying for, the outcome, the solved problem. So when I got clear on exactly what the result was, it was a 12-week program to give drummers the framework to develop flow. The price started making a lot more sense to communicate, and not to everyone, but to the right people. And here's the thing about pricing that took me a while to understand. Just because a number feels big to you doesn't mean it feels big to your student. You're judging the price through your own lens. But someone who's been stuck there for years and they genuinely want to fix it, $1,000 might feel like a completely reasonable investment for them. So the idea is to stop basing pricing based on what you'd pay and start pricing based on what the result is worth to the person who needs it. Plus, there's a whole other discussion about how undercutting is terrible and how raising prices keeps the music education industry healthy and sustainable, but I'll save that for another video. So once I had the offer and the price, I needed to actually find students. And at this point, I was still doing all of this from the cruise ship. So every time we docked at a port, I'd get off, I'd find the nearest cafe, I'd open my laptop, and I'd get to work. I was spending time, as I mentioned, in these Facebook groups, posting helpful stuff, getting in the comments, talking to people. And when someone seemed like a good fit, I'd slide into the DMs and I'd be like, hey, sounds like you're dealing with this and that. I might be able to help. How about we jump on a video call? On those calls, I'd ask about their goals, obviously what was getting in the way, the problems that were coming up, and then I'd basically walk them through the steps, to get them to those goals, and I'd tell them a bit about my program. Pretty simple, but terrifying the first few times you do it, for sure. I'll never forget the first time I actually pitched someone. I was in this dingy little cafe in the Caribbean and I'm on Zoom. I was going through this pitch, a little bit nervous. But I'm just telling myself, like, just get to the end, just say the number. And while I'm delivering the pitch, I notice on Zoom in the screen behind me, there's this like broken TV with all these wires hanging out of it. And I just thought there's no way that this guy is going to sign up for my coaching. Obviously, he politely declined, but here's what that moment did for me. I'd done it. I'd actually pitched someone. And as a musician, someone who's basically been wired their whole career to not promote themselves, to not ask what they're worth. I sat in front of a stranger and I'd told him about my program and I'd asked for $1,000. And yeah, he said no, but I could see it. I could see that this was real, that finding the right person on the right day, they were going to say yes, and it was only a matter of time. So if you're a musician watching this, out of everything I talk about on this channel, learning how to present an offer and facilitate a sale is the single skill that changed my life more than anything else. Because when you can earn money based on how you communicate the value of what you do, you will never struggle financially ever again. So the whole point of building this while I was still on the ship was so that when I landed in London, which is where I moved after the contracts, I had something to keep me afloat. And honestly, I didn't have my first student yet when I'd first arrived. I'd done a handful of these kind of consultation calls, but I hadn't converted anything yet. Not long after I got there, though, someone said yes. And I remember that moment vividly. The first time someone paid me $1,000 and signed up for the program, it was probably the best $1,000 I've ever made in my life. Not because of the money, although it did matter a lot at the time, because of everything that went into getting there. All these hours, I was grinding at cafes during my cruise ship contract, the calls that I did, the broken TV, the people who had said no, and now someone's saying yes. And I actually got to do the thing, right? It was the beginning of this program. I sat down with this guy, started working on his drumming. He really got great results of the program. I remember him, he absolutely crushed it. And that was the start of something that I ended up being really genuinely proud of. Drumflow coaching grew to over 100 students. I put the prices up. I was able to put money back into the program. I kept improving it, and it became something that I really, really believed in. But here's what it actually did for my life in London. Practically, I still had a playing career. And because Drumflow coaching gave me more financial stability, I could be a bit more tactical about my career. I was taking gigs I actually wanted to do. I had a studio space I was renting full time. I had all the gear that I needed. I could get to rehearsals without stressing about the cost or anything. I had resources, and those resources meant I could be professional in a way I'd never been before. And that's ultimately what led me to spending about 18 months playing drums on a theatre show in London's West End. The fact that I had the stability to focus on my career properly, to show up as the professional I wanted to be. Drumflow coaching really gave me that. If you want to build something like this yourself, I've got a video here that walks through the whole thing from scratch, how to build the offer, how to price it, how to find your first students, basically everything I just told you in step-by-step detail. It's right here.